There is a teaching in my tradition that I return to more than any other, not because it is the most comfortable, but because it is the most true. And the most true things are usually the ones we most need to hear repeated. The teaching is this: a hand that is closed around something it is holding cannot receive anything new. It does not matter how valuable the new thing is. It does not matter how urgently it is needed. A closed fist is a closed fist. And until the hand opens, the new thing will pass by uncollected. Most people arrive at 70, at 75, at 80, with both hands full of things they picked up decades ago and have been carrying since. Not because the things still serve them, but because the carrying has become so familiar they have forgotten there is another option. They have forgotten what their hands felt like empty. They have forgotten that empty hands are not a poverty. They are a readiness, a preparation for what is coming that cannot come while the hands are occupied with what has already passed. Letting go is not giving up. Letting go is not weakness, not indifference, not the surrender of someone who no longer cares. Letting go is the most active and courageous thing a person can do with a life that has accumulated enough to know what is worth keeping and what has simply been kept out of habit. Today I am going to tell you 7 things you must let go of before 70, and I will not pretend that any of them are easy. The title says, "Even if it hurts," and I mean it. These things will hurt to release because they have been part of you for so long that releasing them will feel, at first, like releasing a part of yourself. And then you will discover, as everyone who has done it discovers, that what fell away was not you. It was the weight you were carrying that had been pretending to be you for so long that you had stopped noticing the difference. The first thing you must let go of is the version of yourself you thought you would be by now. This is the most invisible weight most people carry because it has no physical form. It is not a grudge or a relationship or a habit. It is an image, a blueprint drawn in early adulthood of the person you intended to become, the life you intended to be living, the accomplishments you intended to have accumulated, the person the young version of you would recognize and be proud of. And for decades, that blueprint has been held up against the actual life, consciously and unconsciously, and the gap between them has quietly generated a low-grade grief that colors everything without ever quite announcing itself as grief. It feels instead like mild dissatisfaction, like the persistent sense that something is missing, something that should be. Present is not. Something that was supposed to happen has not happened yet, is perhaps still coming if there is enough time left. There is a word for what that blueprint has cost you, all those decades of comparing the actual to the imagined and finding the actual insufficient. The word is now. It has cost you now. Every present moment held up to an imagined standard and found wanting is a present moment that was not inhabited, was not lived, was passed through on the way to somewhere else. I knew a woman named Marion who was 67 when she came to me, carrying this weight so clearly it was visible in the way she held her shoulders. She had wanted, at 23, to be a certain kind of person living a certain kind of life. She had wanted to have written something that mattered, traveled widely, built something she could point to and say, "That is mine. I made that. It will be here after I am gone." And life had happened instead. The specific, beautiful, demanding, irreplaceable life that had actually been hers, with its children and its marriages and its losses and its ordinary Tuesday afternoons that were not on any blueprint, but that had constituted, in their accumulation, an entire human life. Marion could not see the value of what she had actually lived, because she was always measuring it against what she had imagined living. I asked her once to describe to me, without referencing the blueprint, just the life, just what had actually happened. And she talked for 2 hours, and when she finished I said, "That is a remarkable life." And she looked at me with genuine surprise, as if the thought had not previously occurred to her. The life was remarkable. The blueprint had been making her blind to it. Release the blueprint, not because you have given up, because the life you have actually lived deserves to be seen clearly, without the shadow of the life you didn't live falling across it. The second thing you must let go of is every grudge you are still storing. Every one. I do not say this because forgiveness is a virtue, though it is. I do not say this because the people who wronged you deserve to be released from your judgment, because some of them do not. I say it because of where grudges live in the body and what they do there over time. A grudge does not live in the mind. It lives in the chest, in the stomach, in the jaw that clenches when the name is mentioned, in the hands that tighten at the memory. And a body that is housing a decade-old grudge is a body spending resources on a conflict that is long over by any external measure. Resources that at 65 or 68 are not as abundant as they were at 40 and cannot be spent carelessly without cost. My grandfather said, "A grudge is a fire you keep burning in your own house to warm yourself with anger. And the house is burning. You are the house." Every grudge you are still maintaining is a fire burning inside you, consuming fuel you need for living, not for them, for you. I knew a man named Douglas who had carried a grudge against a business partner for 19 years. 19 years of quiet, well-maintained fury. He had kept every document. He reviewed the details of the original wrong with a regularity that kept it fresh when time would otherwise have softened it. He had, over 19 years, probably spent 10,000 hours of his finite life in active relationship with an injury that the other party had almost certainly stopped thinking about within the first 2. And when Douglas finally, in his late 60s, made the decision to release it, not because his therapist told him to, not because he had forgiven the man in any warm sense, but because he had finally done the arithmetic and understood what 19 years of carrying it had cost him, he described the release as physical, as a loosening in the chest he had forgotten was tight, as the discovery of space inside himself that the grudge had been occupying so long he had not known it was gone. He said, "I didn't forgive him. I just stopped paying rent on a room in my chest to house something that was never mine to keep." That is a precise and honest description of what letting go of a grudge actually requires. Not warmth toward the person, not the erasure of what happened, just the refusal to keep spending your own limited interior real estate on someone who does not deserve the tenancy. The third thing you must let go of is the need to be understood by the people who have chosen not to understand you. This one causes more suffering in the later years of life than almost anything I have witnessed. The parent who cannot stop trying to explain themselves to a child who has decided the explanation is not wanted. The sibling who keeps writing the letter that will finally make the other siblings see. The friend who keeps returning to the conversation that will eventually produce the acknowledgement it has never produced. And underneath every one of these efforts is the same belief that if I can just find the right words, if I can just explain it clearly enough, they will finally understand me, and their understanding will resolve something that is currently unresolved inside me. That belief is understandable. It is also the thing that keeps people trapped in the longest and most fruitless efforts of their lives. Because the truth is that the people who have chosen not to understand you are not failing to understand because you have not yet explained correctly. They are choosing. And no explanation, however clear, however patient, however beautifully constructed, can reach a person who has decided not to be reached. I knew a woman named Louise who spent 11 years writing and rewriting in her mind the explanation she would one day give her oldest son. 11 years of refining the argument, sharpening the logic, anticipating his objections, preparing the response to each one. She was not a foolish woman. She was an intelligent woman who had directed all of that intelligence at a problem that intelligence could not solve, because the problem was not one of information. The son did not lack information about his mother. He had made a decision about her that had nothing to do with what she had or had not explained. My grandmother would have said to Louise what she said to me once about a similar situation. You cannot think your way into another person's heart. If the door is closed from the inside, no explanation slid under it will open it. Only they can open it. And your job is to stop kneeling at the door and stand up and walk somewhere else. Stand up. Walk somewhere else. Find the people who understand you already, who have always understood you, and give the remaining time and energy to them. Let the others hold their closed doors. The doors do not define you. What you do with your freedom from them does. The fourth thing you must let go of is the body you used to have. This sounds like a small thing. It is not a small thing. It is, for many people, an ongoing and unacknowledged grief that shapes how they inhabit their actual body, the one they currently live in, right now, today. Because they are perpetually comparing it to the one they used to live in, the one that was faster, stronger, more capable, less complicated in its requirements, more reliably obedient to what was asked of it. And the current body which is doing something extraordinary, which is keeping a human being alive and mobile and sensing and present after 7 decades of continuous effort, is experienced as a disappointment, as a diminishment, as a pale and frustrating imitation of the thing it used to be. And a person who lives in their body as if it is an imitation of itself will never be fully at home anywhere. My grandmother moved through her body in old age with a matter-of-fact gratitude that I did not understand when I was young and find more remarkable the older I get. She did not mourn what her body had been. She worked with what it was. She noticed what it could do and did those things fully, rather than half doing them while grieving the things it could no longer do. She said, "This body carried me through everything I have ever survived. I will not insult it now by wishing it were something it no longer is." I knew a man named Calvin who was 71 and who had not worn shorts in 8 years because his legs no longer looked the way he wanted them to look. 8 years of a July withheld. 8 years of a discomfort chosen over the discomfort of being seen in a body that was imperfect and aging and entirely, completely, undeniably his. The body you have right now is not a lesser version of the body you used to have. It is the body that has lasted. And lasting, at this age, is the most impressive thing a body can do. Let the old body go. Come home to the one that is still here. Before I share the final 3 things, one important note. Everything I have been drawing from these years, the lessons about releasing what weighs us down, about arriving at 70 and beyond with open hands, and a self that has not been buried under decades of things it was never supposed to carry. I have written it all down. 20 teachings, 4 parts, in the order they were meant to be received. It is called The Native Way. The link is in the description of this video. But stay right here, because the next 3 things are the deepest ones, the ones that people tell me required the most and returned the most in equal measure. The 5th thing you must let go of is the role you have been playing in your family that was never really you. In every family, there is a casting. The responsible one, the funny one, the difficult one, the strong one, the peacemaker, the scapegoat, the one who needs taking care of, the one who does the taking care of. These roles are assigned early, often before a child is old enough to consent to them or even recognize that a casting is occurring. And then they are reinforced across decades until the person inside the role has been wearing it so long they have confused it for their skin. And by 65 or 68, they are still performing a character that was written for a child in a family situation that may no longer exist in any form, still fulfilling a function that the family system decided they were for before they had any say in what they were actually for. I knew a woman named Sylvia who had been the strong one in her family since she was 9 years old, since the year her father left and her mother needed someone to be strong. And she had been strong every year since. Reliably, consistently, exhaustingly strong. Strong when she was not strong inside. Strong when she needed someone to be strong for her. Strong in the way that a person is strong when they have decided that their own fragility is not permitted, is a betrayal of a role they have carried so long it feels like a covenant. Sylvia reached her late 60s still performing strength for people who no longer needed it in the way they once had, who perhaps had never needed it as much as she had believed, and who would have loved her just as fully if she had ever let them see that she was sometimes not strong at all. She let the role go slowly, the way you put down something very heavy, very carefully. And what she found underneath the role, the actual Sylvia who had been living inside it all along, was not weaker than the performance. She was warmer, more present, more accessible, more fully there. You are not the role. The role is a costume that was put on you before you were old enough to choose your own clothes. Before 70, choose your own clothes. The 6th thing you must let go of is the friendships that have been running entirely on history and nothing else. The friendships where the only thing you still have in common is the fact that you used to have things in common. Where the conversation returns, visit after visit, to the same shared memories because the present offers nothing new to anchor to. Where you leave the lunch or the phone call with a vague and guilty sense that the connection you were honoring does not quite exist in the form you are honoring it. This is one of the most difficult things to release, because it feels like a betrayal of the past. Like releasing the friendship is releasing the person you used to be inside it, the younger version of yourself who was once genuinely known by this person, genuinely met. And that younger self deserves loyalty. But the loyalty belongs to the person, to the memory, to the history, not to a present-day arrangement that has become a performance of connection rather than connection itself. My grandfather said, "Some friendships are rivers that keep flowing, and some are photographs of rivers. The photograph is beautiful and real and worth keeping, but you cannot swim in it." You are allowed to keep the photograph, frame it, honor it. Be grateful for everything the river was when it was flowing, and then release the expectation that the photograph should feel like water. Spend your remaining time and your remaining energy on the rivers that are still moving. They are there. Some of them are people you have not yet fully allowed in because you were busy maintaining the photograph. Turn toward them. The seventh thing, the last one, the hardest one, the one I have saved for the end because it requires everything the previous 6 have been building toward, is the grip of terror around the fact that you are going to die. I am not asking you to make peace with death in the comfortable, abstract way that sounds manageable in theory and means nothing in the body in the middle of the night. I am asking you to do something harder and more specific. I am asking you to loosen, even slightly, the grip of the fear. Not eliminate it, not pretend it is not there, but stop letting it be the organizing principle of the final chapter. Because that is what happens when the fear is fully in charge. The last years are lived as a series of avoidances. Don't think about it. Don't mention it. Don't make any plan that acknowledges it. Don't say the word. Don't let the conversation go near it. And in all the energy spent keeping the fear contained, the years themselves go by unlived, unfelt, held at the same arm's length as the thing they were trying not to think about. My grandfather was the first person who spoke to me honestly about his own death. Not when it was close, but years before, when it was simply true. He said, "I am going to die. I do not know when, but I know it is coming the way I know winter is coming. And I have 2 choices about how to live with that knowledge. I can spend the remaining autumns bracing for winter, or I can spend them being fully inside autumn." He chose autumn. He chose it consciously and daily. He noticed the colors. He sat in the warmth. He said the things that needed to be said and did the things that needed to be done, and refused to spend the season he had been given in dread of the season that was coming. He died as he had lived, present, specific, fully himself. I knew a man named Thomas who spent the first 2 years after his diagnosis at 71 in a state of suspended living, afraid to make plans because plans felt presumptuous, afraid to invest in anything because investment implied a future he wasn't sure he had, afraid to feel joy because joy felt inappropriate for a person in his situation. And then his doctor said something to him that cracked the paralysis open. She said, "You are spending the time you have worrying about the time you won't. That is the only way to guarantee that none of the time you have is used well. Thomas went home and booked the trip he had been not booking for 2 years. He called the people he had been meaning to call. He said the things he had been not saying. He spent what was left of his autumn being inside it. And he told me it was the best decision of his life, made at the worst moment. Loosen the grip. Not all at once, one finger at a time if that is all you can manage, but loosen it. Because the life that is waiting on the other side of that terror is the life you have earned, and it is running while you hold your breath. 7 things. The self you thought you would be. The grudges you have been housing. The need to be understood by those who have chosen not to understand. The body you used to live in. The role that was assigned before you could choose your own. The friendships held together only by what they used to be. And the grip of terror that is spending your autumn in dread of winter. Let them go, one by one, in whatever order your life makes available. Not because letting go is painless, it is not, but because what is waiting in your open hands, what can only come to rest there when they are no longer full, is worth every moment of the putting down. If what you heard today stayed with you, the book is there. The Native Way, 20 teachings, 100 pages, written the way I would speak to you if we were sitting together at the end of a very long day, with nothing left to pretend and everything left to mean. The link is in the description. Read 1 chapter. Sit with it. Now I want to hear from you. Tell me in the comments which of these 7 things is the hardest for you to put down, and what it would mean to your life if you finally did. I read every comment, and if this is the kind of conversation you have been looking for, subscribe to this channel. We are not collecting viewers here. We are collecting people who remember. Come back next week. I am not done teaching.